1. So I've got with me a good friend and a very talented visual artist, Miss Harini Nenjatangal from Chennai. And though she's from Chennai and though I'm very loyal to Bangalore, we're not going to be fighting over Kaveri waters here. Instead, what we're going to be talking about is the big Kannada movie that's come out this year and possibly the last few years, which is
Kantara.
Kantara. So, what was your first impression? Before I start, because I'll take a lot and just keep yapping along, I want to know what did you think? Your first thought after you came out of the theater, like, did you like it? Did you not like it? Was it okay?
The thing was like I didn't actually watch the first movie, so I just had my friend sum it up to me before I watched this movie. So this was my first experience of Kantara, and
Right.
honestly, I was shocked. Like the whole visual and the sound effects and his acting mainly. I was in awe, and my mouth was open throughout the whole movie. So for me personally, I couldn't like compare the first part and second part because
Right.
I didn't really watch the first part. But I've been told by others that like this was so much better than the first part. This had so much more story, and it was much more
Okay.
layered than the first movie.
Right. I mean, I've had a different thing to this. For me, Kantara is very special in like these big pan-India movies because it's not your traditional pan-India movie, right? Like, Bahubali, RRR, Pushpa, all the big stuff, they're very good, of course. I'm very, very excited to see Bahubali, the re-release that's coming up this month. But they're all very traditional hero movies. Like you've seen these movies before. You've seen these King, Queen, you've seen those masala movies. Kantara is like basically a story of a tribe that's sort of fighting for its land. It's not your typical big blockbuster movie. And in fact, the first movie was apparently around 15 crores. So it was like one of those real
Mhm.
surprises. And I was very much curious about how are they going to take this to part two? Because if you've seen, I mean, I'm sure if you've summed up part one, you would know that it ends basically with this guy disappearing. Like the person possessed by the
Yeah.
deity, he just goes woof in a puff of smoke. It's like, how are they going to continue this? And I think among all the sequels that have come out, this is really very different because instead of just continuing the story from part one or with the characters of part one, they decided to go into like the origins of the world and the setting. And very smartly, they got the same actors as playing their ancestors basically in this. So that was very, very nice. And I have to concur with you, it looked very, very good visually. Like I've seen a lot of King. I love these old royal epic movies, but I have not seen such a realistic depiction of a royal palace. Like it genuinely feels like a real palace, a real marketplace at that time. It's not glitzy. Like these palaces and all they made very shiny, and everyone looks abnormally pretty, but it felt very real. And I wondered how what you thought about that as someone who sketches and draws yourself.
Well, it was sort of realistic, especially the palace. But the port, on the other hand, it was like very cartoonish. You know, them like like the chariot at the starting, the chariot falling and all that was very cartoonish at the beginning. But the whole like the palace in the sense was like very small. And with
Yeah.
that part, I found it very realistic.
And also the other thing I realized is, how the palace, usually you think of these palaces, you wonder if it's so big, how does the lighting work, right? Like you see a lot of these movies about kings and queens, they have the diyas lit up at day and all that. I felt after Ponniyin Selvan, maybe like you have a realistic depiction of how light works in a palace because if you see the three shafts of light that just come in the palace, it's not a very overlit. It's not like that, like a
Yeah.
thousand lamps or something, which is nice. Yeah, and also the forest it was very original, right? Like I it's original in the sense not of this story has also been told in a lot of movies, right? Like they're ordinary tribals, there's people are fighting against kings, but no one has done it in a religious setting. Like you have movies where god comes and saves people, and you have movies where people are fighting for their rights, but these two integrated I've never seen, so that was very fun. And a lot of people's problem with Kantara, this one was, in the original part, the whole god possession scene, the trance thing happens exactly once. It happens right at the climax. You don't see it coming at all. Like it hits you very hard when you see it the first time. So I wonder if you felt that because you haven't seen part one, you felt that. Because for me, because I've seen that and I was like, obviously, if it's Kantara, there has to be one of those scenes. So I was sort of expecting it to happen. So it didn't really hit me that much as part one, but like, did it really like hit you and like you're like, wow, what is going on here? Or was it just like you're not surprised?
Yeah, I already knew that there was like that scene at the end of Kantara Part 1. So like I was expecting to be shocked, but like I didn't like think of myself to be that much in awe. Like my mouth was literally open throughout the whole sequence, God sequence, and there was like
Right.
multiple sequences
Yeah, yeah.
of it. Yeah.
And I was also very impressed by like that whole climactic, these guys going up against the whole battle sequence also, because the battle sequence also done very like it's done very realistically. It's like how you guerrilla fighters, people who have got like 200 people they face up against a big army, and how they pull it off. Yeah, that was also very very well done, especially that whole climax in the end when the king gets possessed. Spoilers here, but he gets possessed by his
Mm.
ancestor and he comes and fights and all that. Like, yeah, I didn't see that coming. Like, even people who've seen Kantara wouldn't have seen that whole bit come. Like, that was very, very fun, I think.
Even like how they used that builder, the guy who
Yeah,
built,
yeah,
getting jailed, and then later him coming into the play during the war with the machines and him
yeah.
helping the tribal.
Yeah, thankfully there was that, but
Mm.
the builder part, I get that they had that huge comedy track to get to the builder part, but they could have cut it very easy. And this is a movie that is very important because every scene ties in to the end, so you have to pay attention throughout, like the palace parts or the prologue with the two tribes and all. You cannot exactly miss them, right? Like if you miss them, you've lost the context of the plot. But I felt like a lot of the comedy bits could have been snapped very, very easy. And there's a problem with part one also. Like it was very, very apparent in part two though. And I think that's why a lot of people prefer the second half to the first half. Apart from obviously, the whole, I mean, spoiler, 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 but Rukmini Vasan's thing was, it was very good. Like, I think she got a very, very proper character to play. Because, after you see in Saptasagar, that's you just want to make her this pretty, demure, good looking princess type. But I liked what they did with her character in the end. I don't think anyone saw that twist with her coming.
Yeah.
And for people who have seen Kantara and for people who've seen Loka, which is the big Malayalam blockbuster that's come this year, I think since you've seen both, as I have, you would notice there's a lot of similarity to the plot of Kantara and the prelude of Loka, right? Because essentially it's
Yeah.
about a king who goes into a forest and insults that local deity, and the person gets possessed by the deity sort of when he takes revenge. So just like Kandara does something very interesting, and also I think it's the first time since we've talked earlier about how religious conflict is happening in India. We talk about inter-religious conflict in India, we talk about intra-religious. This is a conflict within the religions themselves, like Shia Sunni or Protestant Catholic, or how within Hinduism there's a lot of
Mm.
conflicts within. I think Kantara and Loka are probably the only movies in recent times that show that conflict between two different belief systems. And in Kantara, it's even more
Yeah.
interesting because you've got two tribes who are fighting, and then there's a royal king also who's coming into the whole fight sort of thing.
Right. And
Yeah,
there's like this thing in Indian cinema right now where there are like a lot of fantasy movies and religious movies.
yeah.
I don't know if it's because like they are playing into the fact that the people are buying such movies, or if it's just like them bringing awareness to the religion itself.
I think it's a bit of. I think it's like basically one, people are definitely more into religious stuff these days. People definitely want to watch religious content. And the other thing is, you have a certain template in all movies, right? Hero, villain. Villain is out for the hero. You have to beat him. It's a very done to death template, right? And the only way you can bring freshness basically is by putting it in a different setting. So Bahubali did that by putting it in a period setting. RRR did that by putting it in a colonial struggle. What Kantara does, or a lot of these religious fantasy movies do, is they take that thing and they infuse religion and God into it, so that it brings a certain freshness. Also, people's religious sentiments get very easily like awakened, and a lot of times, when you have religious sentiments, it's very hard to criticize a movie. You sort of feel the
Hmm.
pressure to like it to an extent. So that is there. And also with But I think Kantara you cannot exactly classify because it deals with a